What is going on, everybody? It is a special edition of Pop Culture Crisis in that we are going to review the brand new Disney Obi-Wan Kenobi series. God help us all. My name is Brett. I'm here with my co-host. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, it's Mary.
How are you doing today? The people watching this won't know that it's like the same day as when we were recording last.
Like, why is she wearing the same sweater?
Yes, I actually had to change because I spilt on myself while I was eating. So, yes, very, very sloppy. But yes, we have a review today, and we have a special guest host today, somebody who's never been on the podcast. Introduce yourself, please.
Indeed. Hello, I'm Andrew. I'm the game developer at Timcast.
Yes, and also our resident Star Wars
and
enthusiast.
the resident Star Wars turbo nerd.
The biggest Star Wars fan in the
in
world.
The galaxy.
He got very upset when he heard me say that we had the biggest Star Wars fan ever.
I was like,
here.
now I have to fill these shoes. I don't know if I can do it, but we're gonna try.
We had to all watch it kind of today. I did not take notes this time because since Andrew is the big enthusiast, he is going to lead the discussion today. So
sure.
I will say, if we were to give a general synopsis, now this is episodes 1 and 2, and we are going to talk spoilers. So if you have not seen it, if you do want to see it, may God have mercy on your soul. But we are going to talk spoilers in regards to the show, so beware. How would you describe the plot? The first one is kind of he's still figuring out that, or he's not. He's retired from being a Jedi. Obi-Wan Kenobi's retired from being a Jedi.
So do you want me to step back and set the scene a bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So if you're not familiar at all with the series Kenobi, basically this is set between episodes 3 and 4. There's a 19-year gap in between those movies, and this is 10 years after episode 3. So basically, all you know during that time previously is that Obi-Wan Kenobi, calling himself Ben Kenobi, is on Tatooine. He's tasked to take care of Luke, make sure he stays alive and is protected, and eventually train him to be a Jedi, right? That's pretty much all we know.
I had timeline questions originally because I was like, it had to be between 3 and 4. So, okay, keep going.
I mean, that's pretty much it as far as where it sits relative
in episode 1, and then in episode 2, because I'd say we're going to kind of move all over the place here. Episode 2 is kind of what I would describe as his return, his call to action. What this show would refer to as his call to action in this show, which is to rescue Leia, who has been kidnapped.
Right, which I have problems with on the entire premise, so we're going to get into that.
Okay.
But yes, you're right. So basically, we start out episode 1 with Obi-Wan being very dejected about failing Anakin, which is fair, and we expect that. And so there's not really a whole lot that happens in episode 1. I think it's towards the end of episode 1.
I do want to point out before we get started that we are of varying levels of he is a Star Wars super fan, turbo nerd as he calls himself. I am even as a film buff have seen them but never felt any great attachment to either Star Wars or Star Trek or any of those. I was more of like a Battlestar Galactica or like a Farscape person, so a little bit different. Babylon 5, stuff like that. So I've seen Star Wars, so my knowledge is basic, minimal. I do know that I feel bad for all the people who have been had to endure what Disney has done to Star Wars. Yes. I understand where that comes from on like an intellectual level as somebody who loves film. And Mary is completely
never seen any of it.
Gloriously oblivious to everything before watching this.
Through one of the newer movies. I don't even remember what the title of it was. And
did you fall asleep during any of this?
It took immense willpower, but I did not. I tried to pay attention, but I was like, who's Padme again?
I will say it was nice having her there because there's so many things. I would not have caught on to this, but there are so many things in this show that if you haven't seen any other Star Wars content, you just have no idea.
Oh, like the entire thing?
Like pretty much all of it.
Like literally the entire thing.
The only introduction to characters that you get are flashbacks directly taken from the prequels.
So other than that like 3-minute intro that they do that kind of overviews all of it, if you don't know anything about it, you're going to have a hard time following what's going on.
Exactly right. And I think even with those 3 minutes, you're not getting enough anyway.
Because not even the flashbacks meant anything to me.
Right, without the context.
Yeah, so you said it's turning into the Marvel thing where unless you've watched the last 100 TV series and movies to understand the context, then you don't know what's going on.
Which is oftentimes a failing on their part, because the goal oftentimes is to make an enjoyable show despite the fact that you haven't seen. I mean, it's very hard to do that. A good example is like the X-Files movie is a movie I can watch if you've never seen the X-Files TV show, you can watch the X-Files movie and still have a good time at the X-Files movie. With lore as deep as Star Wars is now, that's obviously not really possible.
Right. Especially when it's like very specifically, you know what's going on a little bit with these characters, you know exactly where they are in this time period, and we want to dive into it. So like, I get that they want to have the context there, but at the same time, I feel pretty strongly with like any media content, if it doesn't stand alone by itself, then what are we doing?
Exactly. That's the problem of trying to build shared universes with a market share where people also want to, maybe they don't want to go see everything, or maybe there was a time when they didn't have the money to go see 9 of your 37,000 Marvel movies or Star Trek or Star Wars series, which is now there's so many. I mean, they just announced Andor and
dude, I'm the Star Wars Turbo nerd, and I don't even know what they're coming out with. I just heard about the Andor thing. I know nothing else about it.
So it's stuff just keeps being churned out.
Right.
So
and there's been plenty already.
So I do want to know: is there something that you felt the show did well?
I have a very small section in my notes about good things.
Let's do the good. let's do the good things first.
Let's start there.
It's like one thing.
There's a couple. Ewan McGregor, he's perfect.
Yes.
If they replaced him for this, nobody would watch it. So I'm glad they got him.
I would agree with that 110%. Like for me, as somebody who is not a huge fan, I felt that he brings. There's a lot of acting of him on his own, so he has to do a lot with facial expressions that are hid under facial hair. And a lot that I think he does very well. His voice, his register, the way he delivers lines is very, very phenomenal. I just don't think that that's enough to save.
Oh, it's not. It's not.
So
it's not. But I'll give it to him.
Okay. Is there anything else?
I mean, along the lines with that, they did do their best in bringing back all the actors from the prequels who were there. So, I mean, you have the cameo from Tamara Morrison. I don't know if you caught that.
Yep.
But that was kind of cool to see. You won't appreciate this, Mary, but.
And I didn't recognize Jimmy Smits at first as Bale, as Bales.
We were talking about this when we watched it. I don't know that he's aged super well. I was kind of sad.
Yeah. Oh, you were saying he looks like crusty.
He looks a little rough. Hey, whoa.
I had to look it up because I was like, it doesn't look like him.
It is the same actor.
It is, and then it's got Indira Varma. She's a fantastic actress. The woman who plays his Jimmy Smith's wife in that's Simone Kessler is the actress. She's a veteran TV actor. I don't know if she's been in the other movies. I don't remember her being in the other ones.
Very, very bad with actor and actress names. So
I don't know if she has, but they had very little to do here. Is there anything else that I felt that the Kenobi, the original Kenobi score from John Williams was quite good, and then the rest of the music was quite underwhelming.
I thought we were doing positive. I'm also upset about the soundtrack here.
Okay, okay. So I do think
anything else positive?
Yes, there is.
What?
Okay, I will say the set design much better this time around. I mean, you have to remember, we're coming off of Book of Boba Fett, where it was like Tatooine with just sand thrown. It was,
and on the budget that they had, they don't have the budget that they have for the movies, so you're not going to get the entire. It still feels space opera-esque, so that's like the hard part.
Cheap AF.
It felt more like the prequels, which sounds like an insult, but I mean it as a compliment, because you had, in the original films, you have a pretty decent selection of sets and environments, but it's like, there's a forest, there's a desert, it's pretty basic. In the prequels, there's like tons of crazy, colorful planets, and it looks super, sci-fi and all that stuff. They haven't been doing that. They've been going back to Tatooine again and again. We see Tatooine here, but that's unavoidable. But Tatooine, to me, looked a lot more like what you expect it to look like when you're coming, to this from seeing episodes 1 through 6. Yeah. Whereas, for example, in Book of Boba Fett, it somehow looks very tiny. It feels everything is happening on one street all the time, and this felt like a real world again. Deborah Chow is the director. She did several of the really well received Mandalorian episodes, so they brought her on. I believe she's showrunner for this as well as directing. A lot of times, if she's showrunning the entire show, she's probably doing the first 2 episodes, and she might do the last one. I'm guessing that they'll switch, and that'll be a new director for episodes 3, 4, and 5. But I'm not sure, but I just know that she did the first 2, and I think she, for the most part, gave the best direction she could for material that I just felt was fairly lacking. So if I was to give a compliment there, I would say that she did fairly well, and that I think that the call to action to bring Obi-Wan back was fairly good, and that I actually kind of got a little bit excited when they said she needs you, Obi-Wan. See, we disagreed on that one. Yeah. I don't know, but So I will say, while we're back on positive things, I'm going to run out real quick. Again, with the sets, Alderaan I was actually really impressed with. It looked really good. We saw very, very briefly in episode 3, you saw a couple shots of Alderaan, not a lot of detail, but we got to see interiors of buildings, a little more of the city there in the capital, and it looked pretty good.
Yeah.
So I was impressed because, again, Book of Boba Fett, the sets did not look good.
I did enjoy the fact that the stormtroopers at the beginning could not hit anything as usual. I haven't been impressed by any of the action so far. The limited actions.
I would say the same.
Are we going to get into? Do we have more positives? Because I keep almost going to negatives.
That's about what I've got.
I'm going to make one initial complaint right off the bat: is that it's the same thing with all of these shows, and that the pacing is too damn slow.
The pacing is not good.
There's a point right now we're at in this industry where, as they've transitioned from film and the art of making movies that are 2 hours long, 2 hours to 2.5 hours long, into structured 6-hour episodes, which are an hour, 45 minutes to an hour each, they have not quite figured out this magic formula on how to do that without it feeling either extremely slow or overly fast and rushed. And there's no perfect solution for that as far as that I've seen in shows like this. There are ones that have done it fairly well, but not a lot of them come to mind. And definitely none of the Disney Star Wars shows.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's a big problem I have with all the Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. I mean, part of it too, you're talking about 6 hours of content. This is like, a third of the original 6 movies?
Yep.
About a period of time that George Lucas felt was not interesting enough to write about in any capacity. So I don't know how they're going to stretch this out.
So you're filling in the blanks there.
You're filling in blanks, and they're blanks that don't need to be filled in.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part, is that they're trying to make content where no content actually needs to exist.
Right, and I sort of understand it because...
It's the whole point of Disney, right?
Kind of, yeah, kind of.
Like, I get it. Obi-Wan's a fan favorite. Everyone wants to see more Darth Vader. But how much can you pull out of that?
There's only so much material in there. Like I said, I thought the call to action so you have a problem with having to rescue Leia.
So let me hear your take on it.
Well, okay, so for me, I could not stand the little actress that they have as Leia, but I don't believe that's her fault. I believe they wrote her insufferably.
Yeah, I will say, I think
so young Sheldon vibes.
Yeah, the dialogue is bad. I will say, from appearance-wise and some of her mannerisms, I think casting-wise, she was a good choice.
Okay, so you feel like Leia, she embodies Leia,
but a little over the top.
Okay,
and that's a fault of the writers.
I'm one of those people that has always taken issue with making young people talk in a way that young people simply just do not talk at all. And she talks in like these long, full sentences that nobody her age talks like. Yeah. And also, I feel like there's too much. If I was going to actually, I'll segue a little bit. The scene where she gets captured doesn't feel like Star Wars to me. It's like a wooded area that looks like every backyard I've ever seen in my life.
That scene is so bad, and I want to get into that if you want to do that now.
Yeah, go ahead.
But this is like, I don't want to go too much into Book of Boba Fett again, but the same thing happened where they have a chase scene that's just totally unnecessary, goes on for way too long, and it just looks bad. In Book of Boba Fett, they have this little like speeder chase scene. They're driving at like 5 miles an hour. It looks completely ridiculous. Yeah. That one goes on for like 2 minutes, but this one is like, we have 1 to 2 minutes of Leia, who's a 10-year-old girl who is unarmed, running from 3 bounty hunters,
and they're like comically galloping after her.
The one shot where there's one of the guys and he's chasing her, and she ducks under a little branch, and his vision is not diverted. He sees the branch. Yeah. He just runs straight into it and just goes,
yeah,
and that's it. Like, how did you? What's going on here?
Was that supposed to be comical?
No, I don't. It is
because are we like on the edge of our seats? Like, oh my gosh,
I think
chase!
We are.
The score would have been different if it was meant to be comical, and it wouldn't have sounded like that.
There were multiple parts where the score. The pace of the score did not match the pace of what you were watching, and it was unsettling.
And it's weird, too, because it's done differently. Like, the John Williams score is very soaring and inspirational in moments, and this one's just very muted and almost as if it's meant to not distract. But then the content is
generic to me.
Yes. So I did not recognize the name of the person who scored the TV series. Like I said, there's just so much stuff being made now. They're not going to be able to get a John Williams or a Hans Zimmer to score every B-grade TV show that they make. But it does hurt, especially when you're doing scenes like that, which are supposed to evoke strong emotional response.
Right. And so if I could step back to that chase scene for a bit. Yep. We have this 1 to 2 minute sequence, and it ends with her being captured anyway. So why couldn't they just have them grab her.
Yep.
Because they had her surrounded.
It should have just been a thing where the camera pans and they're behind her and they get her.
Right. And it's made worse later on when the same 3 bounty hunters have a better time at grabbing Obi-Wan Kenobi than they do this 10-year-old girl. So I don't understand.
Yep. It made no sense. And Lisa, and her dialogue with her, what was it, her cousin? Oh, that was brutal. There's the scene of them at like a party.
If you ever wanted to sock a 10-year-old girl in the face,
that'll make you do it.
Like it's brutal. The way she's talking to it, like she's totally degrading.
What was even the point of that scene?
To prove that she's morally superior to her nerdy, her rude cousin.
Because she's nice to droids.
Because she's nice to droids, which I'm guessing they're trying to make analogous to like she's a virtuous person. Right, so I didn't like it. It felt ham-fisted. It felt very, very like Hollywood writer-esque. It did not flow naturally. But when you're 10 years old, the character's not going to be the Leia you know growing up, or that we know full grown. You're supposed to. She did an okay job of like kind of sharing like with her dad like the kind of misgivings she has about not being like a real princess. Or what did she say? Like, I'm not a real Organa?
I'm not a real Organa.
Yeah,
which I had no idea what that meant.
Which we realized at that moment, like, they've never used the name Organa before, and if you haven't seen the previous movies, even if you have, it's not a huge...
Like, I only barely caught it because it's such a unique... Like, I like, unless if you're like, and I'm kind of like, it's stuck in my brain, but for me, like, I'm a very, like, anybody who's paid even less attention than me isn't going to understand what the hell you're talking about.
Right, I mean, it's not Skywalker, like, it's not a name that everybody knows.
Yeah, so, I felt like the all the action scenes lacked, and that I think that was my biggest other, like, if you're gonna have ham-fisted crappy dialogue, you can make up for it with well done fast-paced action scenes that actually distract you from the fact that all the dialogue is really clunky, but they did not manage that.
I would disagree with your premise, but yeah, they did neither.
Well, I'm just like, depending on how much you care about the property,
sure.
Like, you're very invested in Star Wars. If I'm watching a movie cold that I have no connection to, well done action and well done scenes like that can cover up a certain amount of flaws.
That's fair.
Top Gun Maverick.
Hey. That was a masterpiece. You leave that. No, that does work there, but even then, Top Gun Maverick was still better than the original. At least was a better made movie than the original Top Gun, just without as much nostalgia. So back on track. Okay,
of course. So I mean, if we want to talk about the action scenes again, there's yet another chase scene in episode 2 where you have Leia running across rooftops and outrunning Obi-Wan Kenobi, outrunning the Inquisitors.
By the way, the world's like closest rooftops to get, like, that's not up to
literally
code.
An inch of
like, I was like, why is there even a divide in the building?
Well, but they have flying speeders, so why do you need a wide road? You can fly over the building.
There was the ridiculous scene of the Inquisitor like leaping and doing a backflip for some reason over a roof, which made no sense as far as like actual gravity.
Wait, what was this cityscape?
Okay, so I was wrong. When we were watching it, I called it Coruscant.
Yeah.
Because it looked like Coruscant. It's a new planet that hasn't been seen before called Dayu.
And to me, it just looks like Blade Runner. It just looks like...
It looks like dollar store Blade
Runner. That's what it looked like to me. I was like...
Because all the roads are wet.
But that could make sense because...
There's neon lights.
It was was it Ridley or Tony Scott that made Blade Runner, right? So... And Tony Scott made oh no, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of something else. But Tony Scott directed Blade Runner. I was thinking of Maverick. Never mind. He made Top Gun. But like it felt like Blade Runner to me. It didn't feel like Star Wars. But like I said, I'm not familiar with a lot of like the smaller parts of the saga other than the main movie.
Yeah, it looked very much like what the street level of Coruscant has been shown to look like, which, again, they've done this before where, was it Jakku in the new trilogy is just a desert planet that looks very much like Tatooine and could very well be Tatooine, but they just have to slightly reskin it and call it something else. Where I'm like, I've seen Star Wars so many times, and I thought this was Coruscant, but it was not. So why can't we mix it up a little bit?
That could be a purposeful choice to do visual callbacks or something like that to remind you of another place. I don't know why they would do that if the goal is to differentiate them from one another. But
then why not use Coruscant and be like, hey guys, you remember Coruscant? You love Coruscant, right?
Is it possible that could be on purpose? That there's a reason they didn't use that?
It's possible.
Okay.
It was a stupid reason.
Hard to say.
I'm sure there is.
Let's see, what else should we jump into? So I want to say this. So the big issue that I have with Disney Star Wars in general is there's a big disconnect between the new things they're writing and the old lore that's been in place, because there's a lot of details and you have to be consistent when you add things to a story, right? And they do this all the time with the new content, where there'll be new things that just directly contradict things that happen in the existing media. So
I remember there was like a Kathleen Kennedy quote. She's like, we can't do Marvel. We don't have 80 years of source material
even that.
But they do have like a gazillion years of source material.
They do, but the stuff she's talking about wasn't written by George Lucas. She's talking about extended universe stuff. And I'll give her that. But you still have to be consistent. If you're going to throw all that stuff out, which is fine, you have to be consistent with the Star Wars 1 through 6. Like, it's not that much to go off.
I don't think they really care much for what Lucas is doing, Lucas did anyway. So that's what I'm saying. They have all of the expanded universe because they don't care about what Lucas.
Right. He had even given them an outline for episode 7
and they threw it
which
away.
They discarded,
and they threw it away,
and are hopefully regretting that decision.
I don't think there's. I don't think they have enough self-reflection to be.
Oh, certainly not.
No,
certainly
I do not.
But one can dream.
Yes.
So like one example I want to give is there's a line in episode 4 of Star Wars where Leia said, when she's trying to contact Obi-Wan Kenobi, and she sends him the broadcast through R2-D2, right? And it says, General Kenobi, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars. If she had interacted with Obi-Wan and he saved her life on a planet while she was kidnapped and brought to a drug den, would she not have instead said, General Kenobi, years ago, you saved me from getting kidnapped and tortured? Like, it's very clear from that line that she hasn't met him, right? It's like a very, you can say what you will, but it's very clear that it's
okay, I see what you mean. Like, it proves that they didn't have any type of interpersonal relationship, right? Just that she knew him as somebody who was loyal to her father.
Right. So the counterexample is this. And I'm not going to try to go on this tangent for too long, but there's a animated series, The Clone Wars, that takes place between episodes 2 and 3 of Star Wars. This is a 7-season-long series. And in episode 3 of Star Wars, there's a line which basically alludes to the fact that Anakin and General Grievous have not met before. They are both very prominent characters in this 7-season show. And because of that one line, they made sure when they wrote that show that those two characters never met. Yeah. Like, they went to great lengths to make sure that.
And they're undoing it now.
And they're now with this, they have the same kind of situation with Obi-Wan and Leia, and they're just like, it'll be more interesting if they meet each other. So
I wonder if they if it's just a matter of them not caring, or if it's it has to be a matter of them not caring, right? There's no way they just missed that.
But how do you, when you're I don't understand how you'd write a show that takes place between 2 movies, and did you just not watch the movies? Like, how does this happen?
I think it's
this like if I tried to write a Star Wars series?
No, I think it's that
they're
writing it.
One day we get that.
No, I think it's that they're writing it for somebody who has not seen it.
But that's not working either, because I don't understand anything that's happening.
They're trying
to calling back to it.
They're
in
trying
irrelevant ways.
They're trying to have the best of both worlds, and they're failing on both fronts.
Right. Yeah. But this is like, my issue with the whole show to begin with is it's just not a very interesting time period and situation to write about. And so they're kind of stuck in this box where it's like, okay, do we respect all the lore that exists and do we try to be consistent with the movies and tell a really boring story about an old man who lives in the desert for 20 years? Yeah. Or do we have to break that because we have to write 6 episodes of a show that's going to be interesting? Because you can't have both.
And it really is going to survive only on the fact that Ewan McGregor is so charismatic in this role. Like everything else, if we weren't reviewing it, right, I probably would have turned it off really fast. I might have just tuned out and been I would have committed the sin of like when I'm watching stuff I like to watch, I'll do stuff while I'm watching it. Like I'll be doing work, I'll have it on in the background. I never do that when reviewing stuff for just to be fair to the work. I'm going to give it my best shot. But, I would have maybe even broken down and started I got a lot of stuff to do. I'll put it on in the background and let Andrew lead the conversation.
I can understand that temptation.
But I did not, because I do believe that Ewan McGregor is so charismatic in that role. And that's at least the biggest compliment I suppose I can give it is he's doing the best he can with very, very poor material.
Yes. And we do know that Hayden Christensen is in it as well. We saw a very, very brief taste of that.
Is that him at the end?
Yes, it's very hard to recognize his scorched body, but that is him. Yeah.
I didn't recognize him well enough to know. I mean, obviously, I know what he looks like without the makeup, and I've seen him with it in those movies. But with the mask on in the tank or whatever it was, like I didn't. I obviously I knew that's who that was supposed to be.
Was that a cliffhanger for something?
That's just
for the next episode.
I think it's more of like a hype up moment because. Here's Darth Vader. Like he's gonna do some stuff. It's gonna be crazy.
Even though that's hard to do because that they will all make it out of this and end up in the next movie.
It's just something that you wrote down in your schizophrenic ramblings.
That was one of the first things in this schizophrenic
It's very hard to make something when you know the outcome of. Right. This is one of the complaints they had about Black Widow. They're like, why would we have a Black Widow movie when we know she dies? In Avengers Endgame, it destroys the idea of stakes for something like this. So the only people with any stakes are characters that you've never seen after this. So
the only characters that matter in this are Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Vader, Luke, and Leia, and you know that they survive.
Yeah.
So everything else is just going to be we're going around fighting and nobody's going to die. So
and also it had Kumail Nanjiani as it's like. Haja, I think is the character's name. He's one of those actors that like I love his podcast, but I can't really get into. I watched Silicon Valley. Meh. A lot of people love that show. The rest of his acting, I can kind of take it or leave it. But it feels like a weird type of casting along the lines of like how they have Bill Burr in The Mandalorian. But he's going to be in 5 episodes of it. It's not just a cameo. According to IMDb, he's going to be in 5 episodes of it. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's very much like I forget the name of the character, but there's a character in Book of Boba Fett who just shows up and has like really corny one-liners and tries to be funny.
They have to have that person because it's Disney.
And it just feels very out of place in Star Wars.
Yep.
Well, I don't know what it is.
That's the biggest problem I have with most of these things is that most movies nowadays have to have some type of that it's that lame, like Mean Girls humor that nobody actually has in the real world. It sounds like they're talking on Twitter in the real world, which makes no sense. They a good example is they kind of had weird dialogue like that in Maverick the other day, like when the planes crashed and like him and Rooster are having their back and forth. Like that's not how actual people have interactions in the real world, and I hate that. You should be writing for realism that's loyal to the source material at all times. Right. I don't want them talking like they're in current year. I want them talking as if they're part of a world that's deeper with more identity to it than what we live with here.
I agree. And I mean, Star Wars has always had little bits of humor, but it's never, with the exception, I guess, of Jar Jar Binks, there's never like one character who's always there to make a mockery of themselves. Yeah. And everything humor-wise that Disney has done with Star Wars just doesn't have the same feeling to it.
And I think that's just a product of the year it's being made in. I don't know, I don't know if they have the writers capable of doing it without it. And I think they would get notes from the studio anyway to add the humor there, even if they didn't want to put it in there.
Sure. I mean, this isn't really humor, but as far as just adding in something as a distraction, Baby Yoda, was that the purpose?
No, he's there to sell toys.
He's there to sell toys.
He's there to
That's
sell
it?
toys. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, that's the case because nobody knows his actual name. Do you know the character's name? Pop quiz.
No.
Don't say it.
I didn't even know who Padme was.
Fair.
It's Grogu.
He's not.
Never heard in my life.
He's only related to Yoda in species.
Yes.
Never heard.
And Baby Yoda's more adorable sounding and sells more toys. So Baby Yoda it is. What did you think of the design? I mean, there's limited droids. There are droids. I think you see a little bit of C-3PO in the second episode, right?
So I heard that there was a C-3PO cameo. I didn't see him. There was another protocol droid.
In the I could be, like I said, my knowledge is limited. So I thought it said in the closed caption that was C3, and it looked like C-3PO. So it could have been somebody else and I missed it. But it was in the scene where the senators were at the party, right before annoying Leia and annoying cousin have their discussion about droids, and she's like, "You should be nice to the droids."
But see, that's another thing where that didn't need to be C-3PO because if you're not familiar, C-3PO is one of a model of the same protocol droids. There's many that look exactly
They
like
might
that.
have just put that in the closed captions because it looks like him. I don't know.
It's possible. I mean, even in the main Star Wars movies, there have been other protocol droids other than C-3PO that look the same or have silver coating or whatever it is. But
I also think that one of the things that I thought set it off in a bad piece is that fight at the very beginning with with the kids running from the. That was so bad. It was so bad.
I almost forgot about that. Like, what was
so for
that?
context?
If that was your hook, it was so bad.
So immediately after the flashbacks that we got to mostly episode 3, some episode 2, was this scene that was not from episode 3, but takes place during that same time at the time of Order 66 in the Jedi Temple.
And you hear Order 66 in like the first 2 minutes of the show.
Yeah, and you're supposed to go, Order 66.
Ooh, Order 66.
Right. And it's just kind of this. Again, it's another scene
the uninitiated
that doesn't
person is
need
supposed
to be
to
there.
Think what about that?
Well, you got your 3-minute recap. You should be good to go, right?
Okay.
I don't think they explain what an Order 66 is.
Of course not. We're not going to go into that. Yeah, but it's another scene that, like, why did that really need to be there? Now, the theory I've heard is that it needed to be there because one of the students that ran away is Reva, which is the third sister.
The one that was chasing Obi-Wan.
I think
they call her the third sister.
Yeah.
Also, that's the other one under all the makeup is Sung Kang, who's a great actor and is like he's got this very distinct voice too, which I recognize him right. Not the one who keeps yelling at her.
The one with the weird hat.
Yeah. I actually liked the costume design and the designs of the.
Are you kidding? That looked like Spirit Halloween.
We're gonna have it out.
That looked like a rubber mask.
I liked it. But then, like I said, it's not there for very long.
I gotta come in with the turbo nerd stuff because there's a big problem, and people who were watching the trailers were aware of this previously. But the Grand Inquisitor, who is the guy with he's got the all white,
the main guy.
Yeah, and he's got like the little emo eye.
Yes,
tears.
So. He is a race of aliens that's from the planet Utapau. And in episode 3, we see Utapau, and we see Pauns, who are that race from Utapau, and they look very, very different. They look much better in episode 3. So in 2005, Mary's laughing so hard. Yeah, cringe. Go ahead, cringe at it. I want you to. Okay, so we had this very different, very specific, and very good-looking makeup design 20 years ago for this race. Where was somebody at LucasArts or Disney to be like, hey, we already have the reference material for this. We probably have the mask in a closet somewhere. Why does he look like he's just a dude with face paint on?
My guess is it simply falls down to budget. That the budget constraints were there.
How do they not have the budget for Star Wars? It's crazy.
Because you have to look at the sheer volume of things they're producing. Before, the budget was there because they're making one movie every 2 or 3 years. Now they're making 5 shows a year. The budget is spread out over all those shows, and you have to cut corners somewhere.
I mean, I guess, but that doesn't seem like the place you cut it.
No, it doesn't. But I mean, it's that or the CGI gets worse. And CGI is such a huge element of even that, like the scene at the end where they're in like I don't know what it is, like the warehouse when is that her name, Reva, is like chasing Obi-Wan, giving her like best attempt at like sinister dialogue, which I bought none of.
It's so
like it's as if a soccer mom was giving you sinister dialogue. She's like, Obi-Wan. I'm like, it's literally like your mom yelling at you from upstairs, so like bad. It's time for dinner. Like it was really bad. Like a lot of the CGI there looked dicey to me, and a lot of that has to be done at night because it's easier to do computer-generated imagery for night scenes, as you know. It's a lot harder to make realistic CGI during the day. You see that a lot of the times when they're shooting the desert scenes. Like you can see where the elements are laid in there. Yeah,
there's a reason they go back to the desert again and again. Yeah. I will say I don't really like to nitpick on the CGI stuff. I didn't really have any issues with it, but man, the antagonists in this show are so not intimidating at all.
That's an ongoing problem
again and again. Right? I mean, you have Kylo Ren, who is just a whiny crybaby
who yells a lot, which is the most unintimidating thing ever.
You have like this, disformed, disfigured Snoke, who's just again not scary in any way.
Yep.
I mean, sure, the bar was set high with Darth Vader, but you have to at least get halfway there.
Yep, and they have yet to figure out. What's funny about that is Driver is a great actor, so like to have
Absolutely.
They could have written him differently and gotten a great performance out of him, and they just didn't. So
no, not at all.
It's I didn't like. For me, like as somebody who's like, I feel your pain as I'm watching it because it just to me feels so cheap.
If only you knew.
as I'm watching it, and we're gonna keep reviewing it because we're gonna keep torturing Andrew. So you guys are gonna have to watch all of the episodes as he slowly descends into madness. Like his beard starts to like sprawl out, his hair is going straight up, and he's got this wide eye. Like,
and by the end of it, I'm gonna look like Ben Kenobi from New Hope.
Yes, you will.
It's gonna be horrible.
So it's is there anything that you would suggest that they do if they're going to if we were to give them the benefit of the doubt and say maybe they're going to turn it around in episode 3, what do they need to do to turn it around?
I don't know, because I mean, another big thing that's going to be a problem is they're going to have Obi-Wan and Anakin duke it out and meet.
Yeah.
And it's just not congruent with what's
and it won't make any sense.
What's in place, and it won't make any sense. And they're going to do it because otherwise they wouldn't show Anakin and Darth Vader looking
That's
all
even
ominous.
funnier if they do. If they just don't do it.
Hey, I'm here for it. I would support that.
They're just like we're going to make you guys. We're going to make it story accurate in the most painful way possible by wasting a bunch of your time. Like that's kind of.
But again,
genius.
like I said, what you expect to have happened in this time period is a hermit who's just watching over a boy for 19 years.
They just turn it into like a weird art house film where it's just him with like going slowly mad, and it's just him like an inner monologue the whole time. That'd be kind of interesting.
And I mean, this whole story is built upon. So we talked about this a bit, but just to give a little more detail, you have Leia and Luke being hunted down for who they are by these Inquisitors, who are like these grand generals, whatever we're gonna call them, of the Imperial Army sent by Darth Sidious. But the problem is, almost nobody in the galaxy even knows they exist.
Yeah.
Not even Darth Vader. Until episode 6 knows that Leia exists. And very specifically, there's a detail, if you pay attention, in episode 3, where when Padme's funeral procession happens, it's after she's given birth, but they prop her up so it looks like she was still pregnant and died with the children dead inside of her. So there's like 3 people in the galaxy who know that these children even exist in any form, let alone know who they're related to.
Poor Padme.
So I don't understand how that secret got out.
Maybe they explain that. Maybe that ends up becoming a fact.
Maybe they will. But I've said this before, where I'm like, everyone after episode 7 is like, oh, they're going to explain all those problems
they never
have,
do.
Andrew. And guess what? 4 years later, I was proven right. They didn't explain any of them.
It's even worse when they're like, you have to read the tie-in comics. I'm like, I'm not buying your shitty tie-in comic. If you can't explain it in the 2.5-hour movie, get effed.
You have to play Fortnite in these 2 weeks when we have this is a true story.
That's a real
thing. If you're not familiar,
Yep.
The whole, I really should go so deep into this, but there's before episode 9, where you have this big reveal of Emperor Palpatine coming back.
Yep.
That announcement was made in a Fortnite special event where his broadcast to the galaxy was played in Fortnite.
It's literally you can picture like the Disney executive in the background going, synergy, synergy, corporate synergy. We're gonna do brand deals. And we're gonna do this. It's brand synergy.
And there was a board of people who okayed that, presumably.
Yeah, well, certainly not George Lucas.
The kids love
Not
it.
George Lucas. He was not.
Well, they're like, we got to get the kids. What are the kids like these days? And the parents are like, well, my kids are always playing that damn Night Fort game. What Night Fort? Fortnite. The game. The video game thing with the controllers and stuff. So I don't know. Like
corny.
For me, if I was like as somebody who's not super attached to the source material, quicken the pace and give Ewan McGregor more to do as far as who he's actually interacting with. The few interactions he had with Jimmy Smith's character that I liked. I enjoy him kind of resolutely saying that he's not coming back. I felt like he did a good job of kind of conveying that quiet sense of reservations of coming back and doing this. And I felt like the part where he actually retrieves his lightsaber was done really well. I actually liked that part where he actually retrieves it from the sand.
Well, I have a question about that, and maybe I missed this detail, but how did he know where it was?
I was going to say, is there like a sign in the ground there?
He gives it to, and I forget the character's name, but he gives it to a character who says, I don't need this. Go bury that in the sand somewhere. And then 20 minutes later, he says, oh, need that. Let me go grab it.
That character who gets the most PG hanging you've ever seen in your entire life.
Oh, yeah. What was that? We weren't even sure if he was dead.
We spent a long time trying to figure out.
Is he just hanging up there vibing? What?
He was on timeout. They put him on timeout up there.
He was like, all right, you're just going to sit up there for a couple minutes. You did a bad thing.
And the music's all foreboding. You're like, ooh, look at it. Because they showed just his feet first. I'm like, oh my God, are they going to show it? And then I'm like, it's under his armpits, dude. What are you doing?
Decision. You got to either go all out or not at all.
Yeah, like it was very bad.
But you got to be family friendly.
It was well, that's where all of this is suffering from.
Why do it?
All of this is suffering from the fact that it's being made by a company that doesn't have a mandate to do more than just be PG-13 at most.
See, I don't agree with that, because every single Star Wars 1 through 6, with the exception of Episode 3, was rated PG. Star Wars Episode 3 was PG-13.
But that's what I'm saying. They don't have a mandate to go more than that. So,
but I don't think they need to.
But then why show it at all? Is what I'm saying. Like, then if you can't do it in a really good way. If you can't show it in an artfully done way that conveys your message, then don't do it at all. Yeah. Somebody should have axed that in the writing room floor. Like, find any number of ways to do that, or just show the feet. That's True, really all you have to do.
The implication was there.
Can we clip that?
When they zoomed up, we had less information. Just show the feet. Show the feet.
This is not like a weird.
I had to say it.
This is not a weird feet pics thing. This is just show the feet on the show. That's all they had to do. They didn't need to show the whole thing.
Right. When they show just the feet hanging, you're like, okay, he's dead. They zoom up. Maybe he's not dead. I don't know.
He's taking a nap.
I still don't know.
Yeah, is that like their version of like giving someone like a noogie or like pulling their underwear up?
Wedgie.
Yeah, it's like that's a Jedi atomic wedgie. Is that what that is? That must be it. So it's just I am not hopeful for more, but it will be fun to listen to you go nuts as we do.
Sure
Would it even be possible to make a series like this in a way that someone like me who has no context would be able to understand it? Is that even possible?
For this one, I don't see how it is, because again, there's so much stuff that ties into this story.
And I think most people, they just expect them to turn their brain off. And
this is what I keep saying. Like, I don't feel like anyone else understands it either.
Yeah, I'm
not going crazy.
There's a YouTuber that I watch. He's a comic reviewer named Comics Matter, and he talks about how superheroes have made everybody stupid. You don't like superhero movies. You like high concept sci-fi. His reference was The Dark Knight made like $800 million, close to $1 billion, but Inception made like $900 million. And he's like, I refuse to believe that anybody actually cares about a Blue Beetle movie starring the dude from Stranger Things or whatever the dude's from. Like you don't care about that. I just think it's like fake geek. Like, oh my god, I'm so excited, and most people are like, who is this character again? Like right. There's not many of you who are that excited about. Like, I get excited about movies, but in certain properties, but all the excitement around Disney stuff feels very manufactured these days. It doesn't feel real to me.
Because again, they keep trying to go back to, they know, we've tried new things, but everyone loves these characters, so we got to throw them in. Which I will say, for all the things they've done, I'll give them credit for The Mandalorian, where they're trying to say, hey, here's a new character, and we're going to tell a different story that doesn't really tie into a lot of the rest of the universe.
Unless you're Cara Dune, and then you get kicked off.
Well, yeah, there's that.
Which is a problem, Disney. Bring her back. Give her own show. We might give you. We might forgive you just a little bit. Hate it. And I don't say that. Well, I'm a Gina Carano stan. Just ever so slightly. We know. Ever so slightly. So I just is there anything? One more time. Is there anything you think that you think that they could do right?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one.
Or let me rephrase it. How would you, if in the ideal way, how would you see this end?
The problem is we already know the ending, right? That's where I'm confused as to why you would choose this time period.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to tell a story about Obi-Wan, there must be a better time to do it. I mean, I guess you would have to go before even the prequels. But
that's the thing. But they wouldn't need Ewan McGregor, so that requires them to do it in this time frame.
Yeah.
So is there a way they could artfully tell this story? Where do you think it goes next? Like,
I think it just goes with him going around and flying to different planets, which already it goes against his. Probably. I mean, it seems like they want to have them have a lot of screen time. It seems like
okay, so it's going to be about them. So that makes the line you're talking about earlier make even less sense, where she says, "You knew my dad," and
right. And meanwhile, the entire thing he's supposed to be doing in this time is protecting Luke.
Yeah,
and he just kind of abandons him.
Well, and
who's there to protect him?
And that's what the dad guilts him into it. He's like, you don't need to protect him right now. You got to save my daughter. So
I didn't even understand how he changed his mind in between find somebody else to do it and then the next episode where he's doing it.
Right. That seemed to happen very quickly. Where Obi-Wan
it was seeing the guy hanging.
Was it?
Yeah.
See, I thought it was. So
like I said, I only watched once. I believe it's seeing the guy hanging. So he has the conversation with Leia's dad, and then he sees the guy hanging. And he's like, maybe I should go and save this. Because the Inquisitors killed.
Okay.
The implication
to reverse 10 years of him just like sitting there in self-pity in a cave.
The implication, I think, is that the Inquisitors killed this guy, this Jedi. So he's like, they're looking for him anyways. The guilt gets to be too much. Like I said, I could be misremembering the timeline of events here, but my guess is that was supposed to be the call to action, was seeing the.
I suppose.
Because like I said, the guy earlier said you got to come and fight, and he's like, no, I'm not fighting. Bury my sword.
Right. And then, oops, I need that. Yeah. And then here's another thing.
He's got a GPS locator in it.
The Inquisitors know that that's not Obi-Wan, and so they know that they're still looking for Obi-Wan in Tatooine. They've got 9 years ahead of them where they know that Obi-Wan Kenobi is on Tatooine, and they fail.
Yep.
And they didn't tell Vader. They didn't tell Palpatine. How did this happen? How did he survive?
Well, we may never know.
We may never know.
Because I don't think the writers will actually explain this
I don't think
to
they've
us.
realized the gravity of that.
Yeah, I don't think they will. So I'm not sure if I'm excited about the show, but I'm excited about watching you react to the show.
You are.
It's going to be fantastic. I know this. Do you have anything else you'd like to say about the show specifically?
One more thing that caught me off guard. Again, this takes place 10 years after Episode 3. Obi-Wan just finds out that Darth Vader is alive. How am I meant to believe this? That he either A, didn't feel out with the Force, his closest companion was still alive, didn't hear on the news, Darth Vader's doing some stuff out there, it's bad, because he knows who Darth Vader is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How does this happen?
So is the implication that he can't, he's not using the Force, so therefore it wouldn't connect?
That's what I've heard, but at the same time, again, surely you would have heard about this.
Yeah.
In some capacity.
Through the grapevine somewhere.
Right, but he's also during this time starting to try to train with his connection to Qui-Gon Jinn and his connection with the Force, which would require you to open your mind to the Force, one would think.
It really is just a mess of timeline problems that they can't really get around, I think. Which I don't envy the writers. Let's just say
they could, because they have this obsession lately with every single connected piece of media has to happen 1 second after the previous one.
Yeah.
You see this with if you look at Star Wars episodes 1 through 6, there's a pretty good amount of time that happens between each of those movies. It varies movie to movie. But if you look at 7 through 9, one ends, the other one starts immediately. Yeah. And it's going to be the same thing here, where they couldn't just say, okay, episode 1 is going to take place 2 years after Star Wars episode 3, episode 2 of the show is going to take place, They could do it like that.
Yep.
But I don't know why they seem against that.
I don't envy you, my friend. I do not envy you. Have you ever seen the meme of Yoda, and it's somebody asking Yoda? They said, so the order of the movies are 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. It says, in charge of the film schedule I am.
Yes. Love that.
Beautiful stuff. So we will be back. So this is on Fridays. It's going to be. It came out Thursday this week. I believe it's coming out Fridays. So it'll probably be out late at night on Fridays, if it's anything like the other shows that I've streamed. So we'll probably be reviewing it Fridays in the evenings. And it's going to make your Friday nights, guys.
Because I didn't have plans.
Well, deal with it. Sorry, Mary. Yeah, you have a job to do. You're going to have to suffer through.
Okay.
Your job is to suffer through Disney Star Wars content.
That is now
a tiny ounce of what I feel.
It is now part of your job description. So
maybe I'll get invested.
She just becomes a super fan.
There's a slim. Very slim chance.
She becomes my complete opposite, where she loves Disney Star Wars.
That's what I'm saying.
Hates George Lucas.
As I said, it would be really funny if she ends up just loving it, but hating all of the original. She's just I just love these actually no, she wouldn't love. She's I love the sequel trilogy. So Rey is just, I am a Rey fan.
My blood is boiling.
Yeah, right off the bat. We should just do a special edition where we just where you just drink alcohol and review the prequel or the sequel trilogy.
That would be.
Mystery Science Theater 3000 style, or
we could do that.
Believe it or not, I have not actually physically seen episode 9. I've read the entire plot.
Rise of Skywalker. A lot of people abandoned it.
I can't be bothered.
Couldn't be
Took
bothered.
me 2 years to see The Last Jedi.
Oh wow, really? Just because the reviews were so bad that.
Well, I already had read the plot when it leaked beforehand, and I was I'm good.
Yeah. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.